It's the last show before the end of the regular season this weekend, which really only means one thing. We play Would You Rather to end it out today on Locked On Hornets.
You're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Real quickly, before we find out why Doug is laughing, I do want to tell you this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's brought to you by what has been a favorite sponsor of the show, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right, Doug, tell the people. Give them a peek behind the curtain.
I think this is our favorite game on the show is why is Doug laughing at the beginning of the show?
That's how we begin so many of them.
I'm laughing because we did that cold open about 5 times, mostly my fault on the production end. And the 5th time was probably the clumsiest, and that's what we're going to go with because I think that is a good sort of microcosm of where we are as we approach the end of this season, where we have been for most of this season. I just think it really fits.
Yeah, end it out doesn't really make sense, and that's what I went with the fifth time. And fifth is actually cutting it short because the 5th time we made the joke that the 5th time is the charm, and then I was like, wait, hold on, I thought it was a joke. I thought you were joking with me at some point. You know, usually producers, they're supposed to make the host sound better, but you know, we do things differently on this Locked On Hornets podcast. We just keep going until I get it wrong. That's the way that we do it. Speaking of which, that is Doug Branson, not only the co-host, also the producer, and he is the curator of Every Hornets Boxscore on everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can check me out on the radio, Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ from 12 to 3. I did want to start with a comment on everyhornetsboxscore.com, though, Doug. I know you had something you wanted to bring to the table before we actually played Would You Rather.
Yeah, the commenters on everyhornetsboxscore.com are extremely insightful, and anytime they leave a comment, I really enjoy it. But I thought this one particularly applied to this episode. So here it is from Chris on everyhornetsboxscore.com on the latest game notes for this last game against the Toronto Raptors. Chris says, watching last night affirmed for me why the weirdos who are in favor of a full-blown tank and strip down are just wrong. Imagine watching a full season of these guys. That's not good for any of your more promising young players like LaMelo and Mark. The talent gap is so stark, even with a 500 team, I'm still enjoying the Baby Bees, but glad this is a 5 to 10 game experience and not an 82 game experience.
So if you're going to tank, then you got to tank the right way. And I think the tanking where you don't have any veteran players whatsoever and you're just throwing out first and second year guys where they're so young, which is essentially what Charlotte is doing right now. Because now that you're without your top 8 players and James Bouknight, I mean, who's the most experienced guy? I mean, it's Svi, who's 25 years old, but even Svi does not have a whole lot of minutes under his belt. So when he's the veteran and he has played less minutes than maybe even some of the younger players, that's going to be a problem. So, yeah, that's not the way to tank. And instead, you should have some veterans that help you out. Maybe you win a few games at this point. It is weird, though, Doug, because this is a team, the Charlotte Hornets, where it always made sense to tank. And yet they're going to end up with a lot more wins than I would expect a 4th best odds team to get in a Wemby draft. That's surprising to me at the end of the year.
Well, because they didn't want to tank.
Correct.
You know, they didn't come into this season with any intention on tanking. They wanted to make a play-in and maybe even get lucky and stay completely healthy and maybe even make a playoffs. And none of that materialized. And they got so fortunate, honestly, that even when they got healthy, because the injuries set them so far back at the beginning of the season, they really could never get into much of a groove that would have put them even farther. They're locked into the 4th worst odds, but there was certainly an opportunity for them to reel off 5 to 10 more wins that would have put them in line for 5th, 6th worst odds. And then you're really talking about not having much of a chance, other than one ping pong ball going your way of getting Wemby. Now they have a legitimate shot. And but I agree with Chris here that what we're watching right now is difficult to watch. And I won't even say 82 games because I don't think that was ever the plan. But had they pulled the plug even earlier and maybe at the trade deadline, for example, and said, all right, shut everybody down, it would have gotten bad. I mean, you would have really, I think, hurt fans that wanted to believe that there is hope in this franchise in the future. I think that fans right now who are still paying attention can at least believe that they've got a puncher's chance next season, especially if they score big in this draft. Had you really gone through half a season with the roster that we're currently watching right now, it would have been a difficult time.
Well, and again, I know I've made this point a couple of times, but this is the season that began with a memo sent out to every franchise: do not tank or we will see you do so, in order to get Victor Wembanyama. And Doug, I'm just trying to compare the 26 win total to some of the teams and where they finished last year towards the bottom of the standings. So 26 wins being the fourth worst record in the league. You're actually talking about 5 teams having a worst record last year. You're talking about 6 teams having a worse record 2 years ago. So Hornets with the 7th best odds 2 years ago with the same record. Hornets with the 5th or 6th best odds just last year. That's the point. It's the fact that the Hornets did not intend to tank. And you would have thought in this draft where you had the memo sent that 26 wins wouldn't give you the 4th best odds with teams like San Antonio, Houston, the teams that were so blatantly tanking, and yet here you are in a pretty decent spot. In a way, the way this season happened, which has been brutal in every measure, the way this season happened, the timing of it, it did help you out a little bit with it happening this year. There is some kind of solace, and as you've questioned before to the basketball gods, we can't have all this suffering for nothing. It has to mean something to phrase what you said earlier this year. And I think the meaning might be in the timing.
Well, if you believe that the Hornets are cursed by the basketball gods, them moving back to 6th or 5th, and not even getting the 4th spot in the draft, that would confirm it, because the Hornets have done everything right for the basketball gods. Not only have they tried to win, they've suffered all these injuries, and they're trying to sell the team. And that has been an indicator for a long time of draft luck. If you sell the team, or if you're trying to sell the team, I'm not saying that things are a little fishy back there where the ping pong balls are, but they tend to fall for the team that is either courting suitors or, is in line to sell. So yes, they're doing everything right. And hopefully it all goes their way, because I think a couple of factors have helped them in their quest this season. One, the play-in is working. Teams now are trying to win and get into that play-in. That's helped. But also, particularly, I think this year, you had a few marquee franchises. I mean, the Nets are the big example, that many imploded. I mean, they recovered because they were savvy in that in the trade, the stuff that they got back for Durant and Irving. So they recovered, and they'll be in the playoffs. But you had a few marquee teams that could have run roughshod over the rest of their conferences and really suppressed the bottom of the standings, or suppressed teams and pushed them farther to the bottom of the standings. But that didn't happen. And so your Washingtons, your Portlands, your Orlandos, they were able to scrape together a few wins against better teams that maybe they wouldn't have in previous seasons. So it's all worked out for the Hornets so far. We'll see what happens, come the lottery.
But that same commenter, I would imagine he's saying something to the tune of he'd rather watch this Hornets roster than he would the Houston Rockets roster, who they're going to play tonight. And so if you want to have that, just be a real quick would you rather, because we kind of got off into Tankland conversation. That is what will lead us off here. Doug, what say you on the roster you'd rather watch? Is it the Charlotte Hornets or is it the Houston Rockets for a full season?
Well, I actually think this is an interesting conversation. So I'll give you my answer as a tease,
okay,
but I'd like some room to breathe here in the second segment. So if you'll be so kind, Walker, and if the listener/viewer will be so kind to stick with me, I'll tell you that I might rather be a fan of the Houston Rockets right now than the Charlotte Hornets. That's going to surprise people just based on the rosters. I'll tell you why.
Okay, that sounds good. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Doug is going to tell you why he might watch the Houston Rockets. Plus, I think we're going to do fun Would You Rathers as well, or not so fun. Everybody's least favorite game, having to choose between two awful things. We'll play that next. Stay tuned. Also, we'll tell you about Nissan Ariya. This episode is brought to you by Nissan Ariya. Nissan's most electric player of the week, because of the electric vehicle, is also brought to you by the all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. I said it again. Can't say the title enough. Bryce McGowan's, Doug. You want to go with Bryce for his 20-point total that he had in the most recent game?
I think 220s by book night. If we're playing poker here,
okay.
I think the 220s beat the 120. Got to go book night, even though he had that rough third game. You know, putting the back-to-back 20-plus point performances, he absolutely needed to do that. I think he's the most electric.
Okay, so James Bouknight, he is electric. He is brilliantly fierce. He is fiercely elegant. He's stunningly powerful. He's elegantly powerful. He is all of those things.
That's James Borrego. He's fierce.
100% fierce, man. He's fierce big time. James Borrego is what he would say about James Bouknight. But those same traits can also describe the 2023 Nissan Ariya. It packs pin you to your seat power, and it has premium intelligence, all-in-one EV, the all-new, all-electric. Yep, you guessed it. 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. Doug's Take coming up next. Locked on Hornets.
Is Locked on Hornets.
Walker, sometimes you don't have to have the best package.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to have the only package. If you wait, or this is if my dating life taught me anything, sometimes you just have to wait around long enough until you're the only thing remaining. And then suddenly you look pretty great in comparison.
It's time for more of the Locked on Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, you told the people you might rather watch the Houston Rockets over the course of a full season than you would the Charlotte Hornets with the way they're constructed. Tell us why with that tease you gave us.
It's Jabari Parker, man. I mean, he's had a rough season overall, but if you look at his last 10 to 15
Jabari
games,
Smith is who you mean, but Jabari Parker, I don't think you'd want to watch Jabari Parker at this stage. I think you need
sneaky
Jabari
quick,
Smith.
Jabari Parker.
Yeah.
I do.
I know
Jabari
you've said
Smith.
it before. You've said it
well,
before.
and that
really
I think I've said it too many times because obviously he was on my mind. You're right, Jabari Smith Jr. Apologies. He has been. We're at the end of the season, folks.
Can you
Jabari
tell
Smith
this is
Jr.
a Friday episode with 2 games left? All right, go ahead. Jabari Smith, Jabari Parker, all the Jabaris. Go.
He's been fiercely elegant. He's been elegantly fit. No.
He's brought to you by. All right, no, that's too much. Go, Doug. Go. I need to get away from the mic and not make any jokes.
All right, so Jabari Smith Jr. over the past 10 to 15 games has showcased some offense that is potentially unguardable. Might already be unguardable, but once he really focuses in and the Rockets can put some players around him that can get him the ball in the spots where he can be unguardable, he's showcasing some like Kevin Durant-like moves. And the Hornets, while they have LaMelo Ball, who is an all-star, that's on his record, and, I think once he gets healthy, has all NBA potential. I don't know that there's anything in LaMelo's game yet that is like unguardable. That is a sort of a checkmate piece. You really need some other players around LaMelo that can make all of that work. Now, all of this changes, of course, if the Hornets score big in the draft and get somebody like Wemby, who does feature moves. Wemby has some stuff in his game that you go, okay, there's not a single person alive right now that can block that shot or that can guard him in that position. And that's what Jabari Smith possesses. And those are the kind of things that lead ultimately to championship teams. When you have that checkmate piece, the Hornets still looking for that. For that reason alone, I think I would rather be a Rockets fan right now, roster-wise. But again, could change.
Doug, that's a lot of stock, man, putting into Jabari Smith, who most people view
I think you mean
as
Jabari
a disappointment.
Parker.
And if so, could you imagine putting that much more stock into Jabari Parker and that being the reason you want to watch the Houston Rockets? No, it's a lot of stock to put into Jabari Smith, where you start to, at least pay attention to what people are writing out of the Rockets organization, saying it has been a disappointment for what was eventually the 3rd overall pick. It doesn't mean you write him off. That's stupid, right? The guy's way too talented to write him off. That's dumb. but you're going the exact opposite direction and calling some of the skill set unguardable compared to even somebody here in Charlotte like LaMelo, who looks to be awesome. And the other caveat I would say, the counter also I would say, is at the top of this team right now, your leading scorer is Jalen Green. And I hope the best for Jalen Green. Seems like he could be a problematic franchise guy. And that's why I think you're going to Jabari Smith, right? Where if it is Jalen Green, the second overall pick in that NBA draft a couple of years ago, defensively, it's been pretty putrid. Granted, LaMelo's not been great either, but it's been awful with LaMelo, it's been often awful with Jalen in Houston. You've had the reports about how just much of a dumpster fire that franchise has been. Yeah, I think I'd go Charlotte more so right now. You do have some talent with Houston, but the Jabari Smith, okay, carrying a lot of weight.
Hey, you're not going to get any argument from me. And they gave that big contract to Kevin Porter Jr., but it's loaded with, ejector seats, right? I mean, team options, non-guaranteed money. If that all burns to the ground, the Houston
all
Rockets
draft love of mine, by the way, Kevin Porter. Loved Kevin Porter.
And so, but look, they could all work out, and then they look like geniuses. But I don't think geniuses and Houston Rockets front office have been really associated with one another since Morey left, or since Morey. I guess I don't know that he left. He asked to leave, I guess. So, I agree with you in all of those respects. I'm just saying that that one piece that is unguardable is so rare in the NBA, and I really think Jabari Smith possesses it. If you look at when he catches the ball in the mid post, turnaround jump shot, I mean, it looks just like Kevin Durant. That piece is super valuable when you're talking about building a championship roster. The Hornets don't have that. They look like they finally found their solution, at least for now, at center with Mark Williams. But Mark Williams' whole offense right now is just cleanup duty. I mean, he's shown some nice pick and roll stuff, but it's been mostly just cleaning the glass at this point. And that's how he's accumulated. These 20-point games have been mostly him getting a lot of opportunities because the Hornets miss a lot of shots. What happens to Mark Williams' offense when they start shooting like they did 2 years ago and not like they've done this season? That's a big question going into next year. But they don't have that piece yet. If they get that with Wemby, then yeah, I'd much rather be a Hornets fan at that point because they've got everything else going
Wemby's
for them.
Different. Wemby's completely different. But yeah, and Mark, you're right. He has shown nice stuff on pick and roll. I think the jump shot, the times he has showcased that. I'm saying that wrong. But either way, when you've seen that from Mark Williams, I think that helps you out a little bit as far as his offensive game goes. But they have Alperen Şengün. A lot of people like Alperen, his ability to pass defensively. I know there are some problems there, but very different player than what Mark Williams is.
But that's the whole thing, right? They've got multiple players that are matchup difficulties. And LaMelo, I was kind of saying LaMelo doesn't have sort of that checkmate piece in his game because it's more of a rounded out game. It's not to say that Jabari Smith is better than LaMelo Ball. That's insane. LaMelo Ball absolutely has more tools in the tool belt, but he doesn't have that unguardable offensive weapon, okay? And Jabari does. But what the Hornets don't have as well are just multiple matchup difficulties where you go, man, that guy really causes my defense a ton of problems. They've got one in LaMelo Ball. They had one burgeoning in Miles Bridges, and we don't know where the heck that's going. And we didn't honestly, even if none of this stuff would have happened around Miles Bridges and the domestic violence charges and, the way he exited that play-in game and the pictures that were coming up on social media before the domestic violence charges, if none of that would have happened, I think there were still serious questions as to whether Miles Bridges was going to elevate his game to the level of
or deserve
the contract that he was
$30
about to get.
Yeah, $30 million.
It wasn't a guarantee.
Right.
So that's the thing. The Hornets have one player on their roster right now, LaMelo Ball, that is a matchup problem. And that's difficult. It's difficult to envision this team winning a playoff series if you don't have multiple players like that.
I will say it was really nice to see Mark Williams just destroy Şengün when those two went at it. I mean, just ate him up, just blocking everything. That was so tasty, and I love every second of it, and I hope we see it again in the last home game at the Spectrum Center. Do you have any fun would you rather or not so fun would you rather? Is there another one outside of Hornets or Charlotte or the Hornets or Rockets roster? Which one you'd rather do?
Well, Hornets and Rockets, I mean, right there. Would you rather be stung by 100 Hornets,
Oh,
you'll
no.
live.
Okay.
You'll live. Let's lift that caveat. You're not going to die.
This one, yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, I
But
might
you're gonna
choose
be-
the other one immediately.
Okay, okay, but you haven't heard
Depending.
it.
Yeah.
Oh no, you've already committed. So Walker Mail has committed to he would rather be shot in the crotch by a bottle rocket.
Why did you go crotch? Honestly, you know what? I might do that. Being stung by 100 bees and then barely living, that would suck. I mean, both things suck.
Sure,
I
but
know.
you'll
I
live
get
and
it.
you'll recover fully. Like there's not going to be any lasting damage. You took the one that possibly could burn your giblies off.
How far away is this thing? How is the accuracy and how far is this thing shot?
Oh, it's accurate.
Okay,
It's whatever
all right.
distance is required to be accurate. I mean, because I don't think, it can't be point blank. I don't think a rocket launch at point blank, it probably wouldn't do much. It needs a little
rid of my whole-
time to get a little speed going. So maybe like a quarter football field, but it's accurate. It's got enough horsepower that it's not just going to like
All right.
in the air or whatever. No, it's going to find its target, and its target is
Yeah.
your giblies.
Okay. And I can't have any baby bees after that. So that would suck. All right. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We continue what is going to be an awful game of Would You Rather next. Stay tuned. I know that's a great tease. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because new customers right now get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, and it's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and even threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets.
Is Locked On Hornets.
But I have seen him go all the
That's
way
my
up to
fault.
number 10. Is there a warning? Do we need to get out of here?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if you heard, but my watch went off, and I was trying to silence it, and then I accidentally hit ping the phone, and then the phone pinged, and now here we are. I'm doing my best, man.
It seems like you're doing your very worst.
Well,
It
sometimes
seems like I'm actively fighting you today to move.
sometimes my best is my worst.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, rapid fire would you rather questions. Here's the next one. Would you rather have Wemby or get a current 30-plus-year-old star to join the team for 3 seasons? I know what I'm doing. Which one
This is
are
a
you doing?
tough one. This is a tough one because people, they can't shut up about Victor Wembanyama and the generational talent. Best, some say, even better sort of draft, I don't know what you would call it. It's prospect. Yeah, draft prospect than LeBron James. They're saying better than LeBron James. Not that he's going to have a better career, but that he's a better draft prospect, whatever the hell that means. So people can't stay quiet about this guy. And yet, I look at this Hornets roster and I say, okay, they don't have a lot of matchup problems, but man, if they added one more and it was a superstar, this team could do some damage. And so the real question is, do you want to take the risk on Wemby because he does have some injury history, and possibly you're talking about this guy taking you to multiple finals, if he reaches his full potential? Or do you take the sure thing and get a couple of playoff series wins? The reason this is tough is because I've been in the desert for a long time, Walker. I'm thirsty. My lips are dry. They're cracking. I just need a little bit of water. And you're promising me an ocean or a lake, I guess, of fresh water. An ocean wouldn't be great to somebody who's dehydrated. But you're promising me a lake full of delicious water. But I don't know if I'm ever going to get there, or I can take the canteen right now. Gosh, man, if you're talking about like Dame Lillard, talking about Dame, yeah, I might take the canteen over Wemby, honestly.
You take Dame Lillard over Wemby for 3 years, Dame Lillard?
Because you're going to win some playoff series. You're going to win.
Are you?
You're going to win. If you promise me, okay, I need a caveat here.
Yeah,
I need a caveat that everybody stays healthy, okay? I need a caveat that happens.
Oh, I thought the caveat was going to be that they reach the Eastern Conference Finals or that they win. Like, without that added guarantee that you're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, there's no way. I mean, Doug, 100 times out of 100, I'm punting that canteen off into the desert to where I can't find it beneath the sand anymore, and I am sprinting towards the beautiful oasis that is Victor
But you
Wembanyama.
might die. You might die because Wemby might come into this league and pull a Sean Bradley or pull a Greg Oden or pull an Emeka Okafor. And all of a sudden, like all of those injury concerns that you were concerned about, but you looked away from because you wanted to bathe in that lake. All of a sudden now you got leeches all over your body and you're dead, buddy.
Can you imagine? Yeah, that for me, staying alive with Dame Lillard would be like, it's like having a really horrible disease and being told you're able to live for a year. And then afterwards, like, okay, I'm going to go all out this past season and then I'm going to die afterwards anyway. Damian Lillard's gone and I see Victor Wembanyama possibly being awesome for another franchise. There's just not any way. I'm really trying to think of what it would take for me to trade Victor Wembanyama, because
what if LeBron James said,
that's
look,
the question.
Jordan's selling. I can comfortably go to this team. They've promised me they're going to take Bronny, whatever. They'll do whatever it takes to get my son so that we can play together. LeBron James, LaMelo Ball, would you rather?
Is it weird that the sun through the windows started to shine on me as you talked about LeBron and as we started talking about Victor?
Look, you almost look like someone like you're a member of the Addams family right now.
I Lurch, is it bad if it's not the first time I've been called Lurch before? Yeah. If we get LeBron James, Doug, I'm not doing it. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm not doing it. I'm not trading him for LeBron.
Let me play the sound. That's hard, man. Because look, I'm just telling you, they haven't won a playoff series since I wasn't even in high school. I wasn't in high school. That just literally me thinking that made me want to scream. I wasn't even in high school.
So maybe this is an age thing to where I have not gone as long in life as you have without doing the whole winning a playoff series thing.
That wasn't in high school.
This is the way to get to the championship, is to get the guy that is Ralph Sampson, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, LeBron James, that kind of guy. This is the way to get the possible championship, because if you don't do this as a small market team, even with Portland having Damian Lillard in his prime, big time prime, and I know he had a fantastic year, but he's older. They got to the Western Conference Finals once. I don't know if they got swept. I know it wasn't close. That's what you got. So yeah, I'm going Wemby. All right, let's do a rapid fire. Last one. Would you rather take Scoot Henderson or trade Scoot for a younger all-star of maybe the DeJounte Murray ilk and whoever you think is in that category? Take Scoot or trade Scoot for young all-star like DeJounte?
Okay, so this is kind of flipping it, right? So you're not getting the old all-star. You might keep this young star for a long time. It's not like we're not talking about young. I'm not even going to. So we can put Donovan in here, right? We could put a Mitchell.
Donovan's better, pretty clearly.
Yeah. So we're putting a Mitchell, Murray, young all-star. You get this player. You might potentially get this player for many, many years to come. Do you trade the possibility of Scoot? And I think certainly I would do it for Donovan Mitchell. DeJounte Murray.
Donovan's different. Donovan's different than DeJounte. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're talking about borderline star, like maybe makes an all-star game, maybe doesn't, like a Murray. A lot of people are talking about this. I've seen this on some discussions on Charlotte Hornets Reddit and different things. Like if you don't win the lottery, you don't win it all for Wemby, and you go down to Scoot, maybe you look at trading that to get a piece that you're a bit more sure about. But I love Scoot. I really feel like Scoot would be a number one overall pick in any other year. I don't worry about him playing alongside LaMelo Ball. He's directly said he likes two-guard lineups and likes, the idea of a Lillard, McCollum type of situation. I think you can play them both at the same time. And I think he would bring an edge and a physicality and just an attitude that the Hornets desperately need. He desperately wants to lead a team. And, I think LaMelo is great in a lot of things, but I'm not sure really he wants to be kind of the leader of a team in the way that we traditionally understand the leader of the team. I think he wants to perform at the highest level and make other players better, but I don't think he wants to vocally lead the team in the way that a Jimmy Butler leads a team. So Scoot would do that. So I'm in on Scoot is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so maybe I'm trying to think of guys that might fit this bill. DeJounte Murray, Tyrese Halliburton comes to mind. I like Tyrese better, but I feel like that's a safe thing to do, put him in that category.
Right.
I don't know. Jamal Murray got hurt. Maybe he's in that category. Just trying to make De'Aaron Fox was probably here before he had the season he did with the Kings and being the greatest clutch scorer ever. That's been a lot of fun. I'm keeping Scoot. I think Donovan is a different category. Look, it was even trading for Donovan this offseason when that was a real talking point. The problem was gutting everything, getting rid of everything you possibly had. And that's what it was going to take. You had to trade PJ Washington as your best asset that had already grown legs. And then you trade all of the picks that you have attached, the swaps, all of them, all of it. And it still wouldn't have been enough because Cleveland gave more. I mean, they outright outbid you, and you just couldn't get Donovan. Here, you don't have to give up all that because you are giving up Scoot. So you wouldn't have to completely gut everything.
Not completely, but let me just say this. I don't think that a team would give up a Halliburton or a Murray level player for just Scoot. I think you would still have to give up something in the future, just not, 4 first rounders.
Well, and I wouldn't do it for those two. I guess to me, I'm thinking Donovan Mitchell is all NBA, and Tyrese is going to be fringe third team. DeJounte's not going to get there. Tyrese is better. It's hard to put these guys in categories. All that to say, I'm probably just going to stick with Scoot. I'm with you. I'm going to hold on to Scoot Henderson, put him in the backcourt with LaMelo, and ride that out and see where it takes us.
Well, because
I'm a big swing for the fence guy here at the top of the draft. I mean, 2, 3. It's even if you suck, Doug, and the Hornets have not been good, it's still not great to get to the 1 or second. Your odds are still not great to get to the 1 or second spot. So even if you're awful again at this kind of draft, to have this type of ammo, I'm swinging and I'm taking the pick at 1 or 2. I'm not trading Wemby for LeBron and Scoot. It's going to be hard to find some guys that I would trade.
Yeah, because I think that Scoot has an unguardable weapon, and that's his ability to get to the rim. And if you pair, 2 threats at the same time, because LaMelo is great in transition, but Scoot can take the ball full court, and you're not stopping him because he's too big, he's too strong, he's too fast.
Yeah,
he has that sort of, Russell Westbrook had an unguardable weapon. It wasn't his jump shot. It was his ability to get down the floor faster than you, and even if you got contact, he was going to put it up, get to the free throw line, or put it in. So Scoot has that same kind of effectiveness at the rim, and I think it could be, especially now. I don't know at what point can we get even faster. This game has gotten so fast. Television broadcast can't catch up with it. They keep trying to cut away to replays, and the other team's halfway down the court. This game's getting so I don't know when it's gonna eventually break, and everybody says, all right, we've got to slow down. But I don't think it's going to be next season. I don't think it's going to be in the next 5 years. And so having Scoot could really change the game for the Charlotte Hornets. Honestly, I won't say on the same level that having Wemby could, but damn near close. I really believe in Scoot that much. Do you want one more fun would you rather before we get out?
I do. Let me ask you this question, before we end too. Where are you on Wemby, Doug? Because I feel like you are not of the, oh my God, this guy is generational. It seems to be a little bit more tempered than that.
I think I understand the risk. I don't think that I doubt. I've watched enough of him to go, okay, I've never seen that before. I've never seen a 3-point hook shot as go in as effectively as Wemby can put, but I am worried about how the body develops. And in the same way that I probably was worried about Kevin Durant, like when we saw him come out and you go, God, is that going to work? I mean, that's the thing with, that's what makes him different, in my opinion, than LeBron, and why LeBron was such a sure bet. Because while we hadn't seen someone so big, and he got bigger, it wasn't, I think when you looked at him, you go, oh, that's just a bigger version of something we've already seen. Wemby,
yeah, he fit in the constructs of what made sense. Victor doesn't make
Wemby
sense.
doesn't
Kevin
make
didn't
any
make sense to
sense.
us. Yeah. 100%. I'm with you.
So I would be scared, but I want it. And I would not, I mean, I would take him. You have to take that risk because the upside is so great that I think it negates any of the risk. All right, here, and my would you rather has to do with Wemby. So we know that Wemby is like 7 feet 4 inches, right? And his wingspan is reportedly as long as 7 feet 6 inches. Okay. So my question is this: would you rather be 7 feet 4 inches tall, but have T-Rex length arms, or even my regular sized human arms? Or would you rather have his wingspan, but be sort of regular sized height where your hands you could touch your toes without even having to bend over?
I don't think, I think I'm going latter big time. I'm going with the long arms, the crazy long arms. Now, I have long arms, and so it does not allow shirts to fit all that well. I always have to take into account XLs, where I do the whole, and Bomani Jones outed all of us long arm people, a couple of years ago on Twitter. When you roll up the sleeves, yeah, it might be cool. I like the way it looks, but I'm doing that out of necessity because it looks like high waters above the belt. And so that's why I'm rolling up my sleeves and a lot of the long sleeve shirt stuff. Even with that, I'm still going the long arms and being like 6 foot tall.
From a basketball perspective, I think people would immediately gravitate towards the long wingspan and regular size height, because wingspan is so lauded now in the NBA. It allows you to get into passing lanes. It allows you, as we've seen with Mark Williams, to get to basketballs, get to rebounds that few humans can get to. So that's all great. But I think the imbalance would be, I think you'd actually foul too much if you had that wingspan, 7'6", and not have the height to back it up. I think that would actually be a problem for you in the NBA. But it's just a regular human walking around. It's tough. I mean, people respect people who are tall, but I think there does become a threshold at which that respect turns into a little bit of gawking that I think has been well documented by very tall people they have to deal with. So that could be tough, and you don't have the ability to reach up on the high shelf and grab the glass that nobody else can grab. So with all of that, I guess I'm with you. I'm going to take the freaky Spider-Man arms.
Can you imagine just being at one end of the couch, the remote being at the other end, and you don't have to get up to get it? You just reach over and grab it? That's the answer.
Perfect.
It's the best one. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Weird show today, but we're going to bring you a lot more this offseason.
Give me them freaky arms.
There you go. I like that dance move. Thanks for making us your first listen today. Make your second listen game to game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. Have a great weekend. We'll be back to recap the regular season on Monday.